Now, Gary Lineker is either thick as mince or either truly passionate about what he believes in, or he literally cannot help himself. Now, I'm going to go with the latter, for the reasons, if he was passionate, then he would know what he was talking about, but he never does when it comes to politics. And he can't be thick as mince, because anyone who makes such a living as he does, earning £1.3 million a year through a forced tax via the TV licence fee, just to host football highlights once a week, then I think when it comes to Twitter, the guy literally cannot help himself. Now, as we all know, he compared the Tory government to the Nazis because they wanted to fly illegal migrants and undocumented adult males to Rwanda, a safe country, and he had his wrist slapped for it, and rightly so, because his comment undermined the horror of World War II and the Holocaust, thanks to what the real Nazis did. So anyway, the BBC chairman has resigned over loans to Boris Johnson. And then Lineker popped up on Twitter and said this: the BBC chairman should not be selected by the government of the day. Not now, not ever. Now, I thought after recent issues he had been asked by Tim Davie to remain impartial when it came to political views, hence why he was in hot water a few months ago. Nobody else in the BBC is doing what Gary Lineker is doing. And yet here he is once again making a political comment when he really shouldn't. And he shouldn't, because he is an employee of the BBC, and the BBC sell themselves as impartial. Of course, we know they're not. But still, the hypocrisy of Gary Lineker should be pointed out to him and others, because it is exactly the sort of thing that he does. Now, the reason the chair of the BBC is selected by the government of the day is because the BBC is partially government funded. It is the government that allows the BBC to collect funding via the TV licence fee. And if you don't pay your TV licence fee, you get a criminal record. A criminal record given to you by the courts, whose laws are set by the government. And you know, because of Gary Lineker's woke left-wing politics, I think if it was a Labour government in power, instead of the hated Tories, then I suspect his attitude would be drastically different, and he wouldn't mind at all if the BBC chairman was selected by that particular government. So there we go, Gary Lineker strikes again. He literally cannot help himself, because he knows nothing will happen to him if he continues. I think the BBC should have sacked him the first time round and made an example of him. You simply cannot go around calling people Nazis on a whim, especially after what the real Nazis did all those years ago. And Gary Lineker is a great example of someone who likely has never ever faced consequences for his actions or what he says. And interesting note here, it takes over 10,000 TV licence fee payers to pay for his wages. So that's likely over 10,000 people who probably don't watch the BBC. Because let's face it, the BBC is shit. Everything they put out is just wank. And these people have to worry about paying the rent, mortgage, putting fuel in their vehicles to get to work, and other essential things to keep themselves and their families going. And yet they have to pay this idiot's wages, because if they don't, they could land in court with a hefty fine. It's disgraceful. And this guy's laughing about it as well. He has laughed about that in the past and mocked the very people who pay his wages. What a vile individual Gary Lineker is. But that's the left for you, folks. Insufferable, virtue-signalling snobs. Each and every one of them. And that's that. That's my video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And until the next time, have a great weekend and Roger Trout.